Maleficent watched from afar as the young girl cried her eyes out in a torn pink and white dress that her stepsisters tore apart. She crossed her arms, glaring at the head of the Bureaucracy of Magic beside her. "You can't be serious," she said. "You'd expect me to help a whining little princess go to some party. This is beneath me. I curse people. I don't have time for something like this." "You have to," the head of the Bureaucracy of Magic told her. "I apologize for the mix-up, but you have been assigned to her. All you have to do is help Cinderella get to the ball." Maleficent looked at Cinderella, who didn't even have any idea they were there. Another weak little girl that would get anything she desired, with doing no work for it herself. "Fine," she grumbled, "but this will be the first and last time I will do something like this. Next time you can fix your mistakes and find someone else." The head of the Bureaucracy of Magic didn't answer and simply disappeared. But Maleficent knew that they were watching her every step. "Very well, let's get this over with." She stepped forward and a small tree branch snapped under her foot, finally catching the girl's attention. Maleficent smiled, deciding to have at least a little bit of fun. The moment Cinderella looked up, she disappeared into green flames. "Hello," Cinderella's hoarse voice sounded. "Is someone there?" Maleficent reappeared, but this time right in front of her. Cinderella gasped and jumped back, looking at her with big eyes. "Oh, did I scare you?" Maleficent asked with a faint smirk. "That's what they get for assigning me as a fairy godmother." Cinderella stared at her in surprise. "Fairy godmother?" she asked, confused. "You are my fairy godmother." "It would seem so," Maleficent said, crossing her arms. "Don't expect me to come every time you're crying your eyes out. This will be a one-time thing. Now let's discuss a few ground rules here. No gratitude, no hugging, and make sure you are back before midnight just to keep up appearances. Most of your average fairy godmother's magic isn't strong enough to let the magic work for long, and you'll have to be home before your step-family. Unless, of course, you want them to know you were gone." Cinderella slowly shook her head and wiped away her tears. "Back before midnight," she repeated, brushing off her dress and straightening herself up. "Understood." Maleficent gave a nod. This was going to be easier than she had expected. Well, she probably should have expected that a kind and sweet girl wouldn't be any problem to work with. It was almost boring to see how easy they'd comply to anything a stranger told them to. "Very well, let's get this over with then," Maleficent sighed. She took a look at Cinderella's torn dress and pointed her staff at her. With a quick wave, the dress began to shape back into its old form before it got destroyed. Even the pearl necklace came back around her neck like before. Cinderella walked over to the fountain and looked at her reflection, letting out a sigh of awe, as if she was wearing a completely new dress. "It is just the way my mice friends made it," Cinderella brought out softly. "Thank you, it's wonderful." "What did I tell you about gratitude?" Maleficent sighed, narrowing her eyes at the naive girl. Cinderella simply smiled apologetically, but she could still see the gratitude in her eyes. "But won't my step-family recognize me this way at the ball?" Maleficent raised her eyebrow. Was this one stupid or just joking? "You think a different dress is going to make you unrecognizable?" she asked. "Oh, for heaven's sake, fine. I'll make sure they won't be able to recognize you." She pointed her staff at her again, and there was a small poof. Cinderella looked back at her reflection, touching her face, surprised. "I still look the same," she said, confused. "For you, you still look the same, but I can assure you no one will recognize you," Maleficent pressed. "Now do you want to go to this ball, or are you going to keep wasting your time here?" Cinderella nodded, still looking confused but giving a faint smile. "Yes," she said. "I am ready to go, fairy godmother," she said, folding her hands as she looked at her expectingly. Maleficent felt her skin crawl as she was called, fairy godmother. "Don't call me that," she said, shaking her head. "Just call me Maleficent." The fairy wouldn't usually give her name, but anything was better than fairy godmother. The head of the bureaucracy really owed her for this. This was not what she signed up for, but luckily she was almost done with her task. She waved her staff one more time, conjuring a dark carriage, pulled by 4 horses. "Now go," she said, making an impatient gesture towards the carriage. "It will take you where you need to go." Cinderella nodded. Cinderella stopped talking and quickly stepped inside the carriage without continuing to thank her. Of course, that girl didn't learn that quickly. The moment the door shut, the horses started to gallop towards the castle, fatting into the night. Maleficent watched the girl go, knowing she had fulfilled the wish. But something held her back from leaving. Her eyes shifted towards the castle, looking at it curiously. Well, having done all that work, she might as well see how her goddaughter was doing. Everything had gone fine that evening. She had watched Cinderella dance with the prince, who only had attention for her the moment she walked in. Typical. They had danced all night and hadn't done anything else. Then, when the clock struck 12, Cinderella suddenly ran away, not even listening to his calls. A smile crawled onto Maleficent's lips as she thought about how serious Cinderella took her warning. Had she not told her that her magic was able to last longer than that of the average godmother? Oh well, her loss. But in her rush to leave, Cinderella had lost a shoe, which the prince found. She watched from a distance as he talked to the Duke. "I have to find her," he told him. "She was beautiful and so kind. Try this shoe on every maiden in the country." "Every maiden, Your Highness?" the Duke asked, his eyes widening. "But that could take days, and there could be more than one who fits it." "I'll know her when I see her," the prince said. "But this is the only thing I have left of her." Oh, for heaven's sake, couldn't these peasants do anything by themselves? Maleficent sighed, disappearing from her spot and appearing closer to them. "Using a shoe to find the love of your life is going to take a long time," she casually said, as if she was a part of the castle staff. But the Duke took one look at her and took a step back. "Where did you come from?" he asked her. "Guards, remove this trespasser at once." "Wait!" the prince called out, raising his hand to stop the guards already coming up to her. He looked at Maleficent, and to her surprise, he didn't show too much fear. "What do you know about the girl?" Maleficent smirked lightly. "Who says I know anything about her? I only said it would take you a long time to find the love of your life with a shoe." She laughed at the ridiculous idea, almost wanting to watch him put a shoe on every single maiden in his country. The prince looked back at her, and he didn't lose her gaze. "Please, my lady," he said. "If you know anything about her, please tell me. I can give you anything in return." Maleficent rolled her eyes at his pleading, almost finding it boring. "Her name is Cinderella," she said. "She lives at the countryside in a large mansion, the Tremaine family." The prince nodded, turning to his guards and the Duke. "We will go there at once," he said, then turning back to Maleficent. But before he could say anything to Maleficent, she disappeared into green flames once again. Her work was done. The dark fairy watched from the pumpkin patch as the door opened and the prince walked out with Cinderella. Both smiling and talking, looking like any young couple. Disgusting, but also lucky for them. As they walked down the path, Cinderella met her eyes and turned to the prince. She said something before she left him there and approached the patch. "I know you don't like it, Maleficent, but after everything you've done for me," she softly said. "Thank you. You really are a good fairy godmother." Maleficent stared at Cinderella and was taken aback for just a few seconds. But then she waved her off like she always did. "Like I said, this was a one-time thing," she muttered. "Now go back to your prince." Cinderella let out a soft giggle and rushed back to the prince, who was patiently waiting. But of course, Maleficent hadn't gone unnoticed to him either. Their eyes met, and he gave a small nod before he guided Cinderella to the carriage. Maleficent watched them leave, feeling something strange. Was she actually happy that they were together? She shook her head, then turned and disappeared. One good deed wasn't going to make her like doing good. Putting curses on people was far more fun than that.